This video exists for one reason. Because every single day, you use technology powered by something you've never been told about. Not your phone brand. Not the processor. Not the software. A raw material. A hidden metal. Every time you tap your phone, start your electric car, or scroll through social media, you're depending on it. And without it, your digital life would collapse. That metal is cobalt. And over 70% of the world's supply comes from just one country, the Democratic Republic of Congo. A country shaped by war, corruption, and instability. So this video asks a simple question. How did the entire global tech industry become dependent on one fragile supply chain? And what happens when that dependency turns into a geopolitical weapon? Let's start with the basics. Cobalt is a blue-gray metal, often found alongside copper and nickel. For centuries, it was used to color glass and ceramics. In fact, ancient miners called it the devil's stone because it released toxic fumes. But today, its most important role is inside lithium-ion batteries. Specifically, in the cathode. Cobalt acts as a stabilizer. It prevents overheating, increases energy density, and allows batteries to store more power in less space. Without cobalt, your phone battery would need to be twice as large. Electric vehicles wouldn't have competitive range, and large-scale renewable energy storage becomes far less efficient. In simple terms, without cobalt, the clean energy transition doesn't work at scale. Now here's where everything changes. Because cobalt is not evenly distributed across the planet. One place dominates: the Democratic Republic of Congo, especially a region known as the Copperbelt, a 250-mile stretch of land rich in copper and cobalt. Today, the DRC produces roughly 70 to 75% of the world's cobalt. No other country comes close. But this supply comes from two completely different systems. On one side, industrial mining, large-scale operations run by multinational companies. On the other, artisanal mining, small-scale, manual, and largely unregulated. And between 15 to 30% of cobalt comes from these artisanal mines. This is where the story becomes uncomfortable. In artisanal mining zones, workers dig by hand. Tunnels collapse without warning. Protective equipment is minimal or non-existent. And in many cases, children are part of this workforce. Kids as young as 7 years old, working underground, for extremely low wages. They inhale cobalt dust, which leads to lung damage, skin diseases, long-term health complications. And they do it not by choice, but because survival leaves them no alternative. Now zoom out, because this is no longer just a mining issue. It's a geopolitical one. When a critical resource is concentrated in one unstable region, it creates what experts call a choke point. And choke points are dangerous. The Congo has experienced decades of conflict. The Second Congo War alone involved 9 African nations and resulted in over 5 million deaths. Even today, parts of the country remain unstable. Armed groups operate near mining regions. Political tensions remain high. This means any disruption, conflict, policy change, or instability can affect global supply. In 2018, when exports were disrupted, cobalt prices surged by around 50% in a matter of weeks. Now imagine a larger disruption. A coup, a militia takeover, a nationalization of resources. The entire battery industry could be affected overnight. But there's another layer to this story. Because mining is only the first step. Cobalt must be refined before it becomes usable. And this is where China dominates. Today, China controls roughly 80% of global cobalt refining capacity. Over the past 15 years, Chinese companies have acquired stakes in Congolese mines, built infrastructure, roads, railways, power systems, secured long-term supply agreements. So even when Western companies source cobalt, it often passes through China. This creates enormous strategic leverage. China isn't just participating in the supply chain, It controls critical parts of it. Meanwhile, countries like the United States and those in Europe are now trying to rebuild their own supply chains. But this takes years. And in the meantime, the dependency continues. Before talking about solutions, we need to acknowledge something uncomfortable. This system continues because it works. It delivers cheap cobalt. It meets growing demand. And it stays largely invisible to consumers. Many major tech and automotive companies have pledged to eliminate unethical sourcing. But supply chains are complex. Tracing cobalt back to its exact origin is difficult. And in many cases, the conditions on the ground don't change. This is not just a supply chain problem. It's a system built on ignoring the true cost. So what can be done? There are three main paths forward. First, reduce dependence through new battery technology. Lithium-ion phosphate batteries, LFP, require no cobalt. They have lower energy density, but they are safer and cheaper, and they are already being adopted at scale. Future technologies like solid-state batteries may eliminate cobalt entirely. Second, recycling. Every lithium-ion battery eventually reaches the end of its life. Inside those batteries are valuable materials: cobalt, nickel, lithium. Today, less than 10% of these materials are recycled. But with better systems, this could become a major source of supply, reducing the need for new mining. Third, diversification and accountability. Countries like Australia, Canada, and the United States have cobalt reserves. Developing them takes time, but it reduces reliance on a single region. At the same time, we need real transparency, traceable supply chains, independent audits, and fair compensation for workers. None of these solutions are easy. They require investment, policy changes, and global cooperation. But the alternative is continuing with a system built on risk and exploitation. The cobalt monopoly is not permanent. It exists because of decisions made over time, prioritizing cost, speed, and convenience. But the future can look different. New battery technologies can reduce demand. Recycling can recover existing materials. New mining regions can diversify supply. But none of this happens automatically. It requires action. From governments, from companies, and from consumers. Because here's the truth. Every time you buy a smartphone, a laptop, or an electric vehicle, you are part of this system. And when people start asking questions, companies start responding. Where did this cobalt come from? How was it sourced? At what cost? The future of technology is not just about innovation. It's about responsibility. It's about building systems that are not only powerful, but fair. Not only efficient, but resilient. If you want to understand the hidden systems shaping your world, stay curious. Because the next time you pick up your phone, you won't just see a device. You'll see the global system behind it. And the question is, what kind of system do we choose to build?